put the Bible down. Okay, I don't mean put your Bible down forever, okay? Relax. But listen, studying only the Bible for me is like having one music playlist, kind of like a classical music playlist. I mean, I was a music major in college. I sang opera. I adored singing classical music, but I also sang jazz, R&B, pop, and blues, and any songs that made me feel something resonating deep down in my soul. Seriously, before you start commenting and knock yourself out if you really want to, you're gonna want to hear me out. So studying broader concepts of spirituality outside of the Bible is like having 20 playlists to choose from. And in the end, you're that much more enriched, knowledgeable, and centered in the love and truth of Christ consciousness. It's time people started thinking for themselves and started branching out. I mean, what are people afraid of? By branching out from the Bible, you'll realize that as you go, that there's nothing to fear. Let's stop this fear of God thing and fear of where you could spend eternity. Stop with like damnation and hell. I guarantee you, Jesus did not make people tremble from fear of wrong choices or fear of God. So think about all the new music that's been written: jazz, rock, folk, Prince, because he gets his own category, world music, indie music, Stevie Wonder. I can't imagine life with one playlist, and no judgment, but I think those who stick to one playlist are afraid of what they've been taught, frankly, by men and the ministers of men. I mean, since the time of Jesus, when people started distorting his messages of love and healing to suddenly following all the rules to earn their way into God's love, God's kingdom, that old chestnut. But if you just have the courage to stretch your spiritual curiosity a little farther than the Bible, you would know that God's love and forgiveness have already been given. Fear of branching out is comparable to the fear of listening to new musical styles. You remember the movie Footloose with John Lithgow, and he thinks that this new rock and roll music is something of the devil, and eventually, once he sees the joy that this music brings, he comes around. And listen, any philosophy on God and Jesus, learning all about the light of Christ and Jesus himself, it's glorious in its own right. I've studied Jesus my entire adult life to learn the art of healing, love, and overcoming a chronic illness that struck me down, almost took my life countless times 10 years ago. And you guys, the Bible is great. It's epic, and it holds so many truths. I've studied the Bible as much as I've studied anything else, but let me just say this. I was inspired by a video that I watched yesterday, which is what prompted me actually to do this video. This video is about an Amish man named Eli who had a near-death experience. It was so profound to him that he knew he had to return to his life on earth rather than cross over to the other side. He was in an accident and he got hit by a truck on his horse and buggy. But he was told by Jesus that he had a mission to teach his Amish community at risk of rejection and scorn about the real love of Jesus that he felt in this direct one-on-one profound encounter with him on the other side. He had realized in his life review that he was so worried about getting all of the religious rules right, always worrying about checking all the boxes to get into heaven, that he wasn't living what the Bible had intended, which was to point people closer to living in love, as Jesus came to teach us, love of yourself and love of your brothers and sisters. I transcribed a few quotes from the video based on his testimony of what Jesus said to him during his near-death experience. And Jesus said, "Eli, my rules cannot save you, but my love can. My grace is enough." He also said, "Eli, you have lived your life with sincerity, seeking to honor God, but you've been burdened by a yoke that I never intended for you to carry." He also said, "Eli, the rules were never meant to save you. They were meant to point you toward me." And lastly, he said, "Eli, you can't earn what has already been given. My grace is a gift, not a reward." And Eli said after this experience, for the first time, he said, "I began to feel the chains that I had carried around for so long beginning to fall away, the chains of pride." He said, the striving that I felt in my soul, I felt lighter than I ever imagined possible before. And so I also wish that I could nudge people to think outside the box, not being afraid anymore, to include other categories in their playlists. The Bible's certainly in the playlist, but why not include all of the progress since 2,000 years ago? It just makes sense to me. Why not include Eastern philosophy like Buddhism, Sikhism, study people like Deepak Chopra, Hinduism, all of the current spiritual teachers out there right now, starting with like Shaman Durek, Michael Beckwith, Sue Morter, Sarah Landon, Lee Harris, Mike Dooley, Esther Hicks's Abraham, the Seth books, the Bhagavad Gita, the people that Oprah likes. Start watching the YouTube channel Next Level Soul if you're not sure where to start. Even the healing concepts of Mary Baker Eddy, who founded the Christian Science movement at the turn of the 20th century. The list goes on and on. My favorite material out there is the book called A Course of Love, which is actually a channeled teaching from Jesus in 2004 by Mary Perron. These are the philosophies and books and teachings that brought me closer to the truth of love and healing, which is what Jesus and the Bible point us to. There's no right or wrong way to heal or to get to God. We're all getting there because we simply return to where we came from, because we never left and we were never separated from God in the first place. It's already what and who we all are. No division, no separation, all brothers and sisters in the light of Christ consciousness, children of God. The terminology should no longer separate us. The methods we live by should no longer divide us. We are all one, and I challenge each of you to love more deeply and expand your playlist. Practice starting to break down barriers and judgments, loving everyone on this planet unconditionally, which is what Jesus was teaching us in the first place. If we would just listen, if we would just stop separating, dividing, and judging, open your mind to expand to the new knowledge that's out there. There's nothing to be afraid of. No one is striking you down for branching away from a 2,000-year-old book. Come on, no more barriers, no more separation, just love of everyone. Our world needs this right now more than ever. We are all one brethren under the same loving universal embrace. And if you're on the same page as me, let's start talking about this stuff. It's time. It's time to start being authentic, raising our voices, letting go of societal fears, and just be who we are. Unashamed people who speak their truth publicly. I have a feeling there are way more people that think this stuff like I do and are still just too afraid to talk about it. Let's expand our playlists, you guys, starting to include everything that touches our hearts deeply and that encompasses the progress we've made in the last 2,000 years. Why are we still limiting ourselves? We're still too afraid to talk about this stuff. Let's put an end to that and go forward from here. Let's do this. Thanks so much for listening. And if you or anyone you know wants accepting, open-minded spiritual guidance away from one-track biblical Christianity to a broader spirituality without having to give up your current beliefs, by the way, just expanding your playlist, right? If you want that, you can sign up for individual sessions with me. I'd love to work with you personally as well at hollyshealinghub.net, joining me also for my 40 Days to Wellness program, where I work with you to release your blocks to healing. And so I hope this resonates with you. Be well and be free within your heart. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you later.